the AI in Business podcast.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural AI Business Group podcast. I'm here with our guest, Professor Michael Speigl. Professor Speigl, please tell us about yourself.
Hey, Krish, thanks for having me. So excited to be here. I've been able to see firsthand all the hard work the AI Business Group has been putting in at the University of Michigan. You guys had a great event last week. I know you're planning another great event for the end of January and a lot of these great projects. So thanks for having me. Again, my name is Michael Speigl. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. I'm also dealer principal of We Auto. We have auto dealerships in Michigan and Tennessee. Really excited to be here and happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much. I think your background's perfect because for the first episode, we're going over AI in retail. And my first question is, what inspired you to balance running an automotive dealership group, which with many dealerships, along with teaching sales management at Michigan Ross? And how do these two roles complement each other?
Yeah, thanks. So I went to the University of Michigan and graduated as an undergrad, and so many people that I met along the way have influenced me and helped my career. And so when I had the opportunity 4 or 5 years ago to start giving back in that way as an adjunct and being able to help students, one, learn what's happening in the business world right now today, and then also influence, how they get jobs and where they get jobs and the network they create to be able to help them once they get those jobs was just really exciting. And I really feel great about giving back in the same way that so many people did for me when I was a young graduate from the University of Michigan.
Yeah, I think that's really great to see because, obviously as a dealer principal, you probably have a lot to handle, juggle around with different day-to-day operations. And it's great to see that you're giving back to the Ross community. And my first question for you is, Walmart just partnered with OpenAI to allow customers to shop directly through ChatGPT. They just asked ChatGPT to shop, ask them to buy something, and its agent will go and buy it for you. As someone managing dealerships, what's your strategy to maintain these customer relationships that you see when someone goes in to buy a car, when AI intermediaries could stand between you and your buyers?
Yeah, this is such a fluid situation, right? OpenAI is not the only source where people are doing this. Google with Gemini, Claude, Anthropic, there's so many different places where people are going to get information today. And this really reminds me of 15, 20 years ago when people started widely using search.
Yeah.
At first, Google was just a place to go get information, almost like an encyclopedia. And then it very quickly became, business listings. And then I really think that all of these AI platforms are going to follow that same model with, oddly enough, OpenAI taking the role that Google did previously. 20 years ago in search, you could go to, Yahoo or Google or Bing, but Google was the 1,000-pound gorilla. And OpenAI seems to be filling that space. So long story short, right now people are doing it very organically. And we also are having our own team go into these platforms and search for cars, search for information about retail outlets and dealerships, and see where we rank and see how they come up. But as you're seeing Walmart, and they're the first, but it'll be everybody, right? Because OpenAI, along with all of these other platforms, are investing literally billions and billions of dollars on their technology, and they need to pay for that somehow, some way. They need to have revenue start coming in. Because although everybody sees the future, at some point investors are going to hold them accountable to the profits that are coming through. And so they're going to need to chase all the same revenue streams that Google did 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. How do we pay people for preferred listings? How do we let video come into this? How do we let these businesses brand themselves on our platform? And what is the revenue sharing opportunity there? Because OpenAI doesn't sell toilet paper or hot sauce or vehicles. They just sell the direct access to the consumer to the companies who do sell hot sauce and diapers and automobiles. And so I think you're going to see a long list of different platforms and different access and different shopping experiences that'll be paid access from OpenAI, from Gemini, from these sources to allow these retailers access to the consumers that they have.
So you're like talking about a future where, these businesses like OpenAI and Gemini work with the bit like dealers or stores and retailers, just like working together to reach customers. Um,
Yeah, because if you think about a retail experience, let's go to a clothing retail experience.
yeah.
I think the difference between a traditional search, when you type into Google, I'm looking for new fall apparel, and then it'll have paid listings by anybody who wants to bid on the terms fall apparel, and then it'll have the organic listings of who Google thinks most directly matches up with that, and then it'll be a link to their website, and you can go into their website and have a traditional website shopping experience. Well, if you type in that same thing, I think the future looks something like this. I'm looking for fall apparel. Well, ChatGPT will ask you a little bit about yourself.
Hmm.
I think then ChatGPT will ask you to upload a picture of yourself. I think then ChatGPT will give you some suggestions, and it'll put those fall apparel right on you based on the picture that you sent, so you can see the fall apparel and what that looks like. And then I think you'll be able to shop right from there. I like this blouse, I like this sweater, I like this jacket, I don't like this, I don't like that. Click here, buy it now. And now you're getting from Walmart or from Abercrombie or from whoever you shop with, you're going to see that stuff show up at your doorstep based on you getting a visual of what those things will look like, and what's popular, and based on the algorithms that they're going to create that they think that you're going to like, based on the information that you supply to them, that'll be both visual and text-based.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You sell cars, so how do you like see like the application of that towards like dealerships?
So in similar type ways, where again, I think you're going to tell, the search engine what's important to you.
Hmm.
Much like what you're doing with a sales associate now. So the first thing you do when you tell a sales associate, you might say things like, this is my budget. I want a car or a truck. I like lighter colors or darker colors. I, really have to have a rear seat and entertainment system for my young children. These are the things I must have. And I think that the algorithms, again, through these platforms, are going to connect you to these retail outlets or direct-to-consumer outlets such as Tesla, et cetera, where you're going to be offered options. And then every customer is going to have their own option from there. Autos is a little bit different because some customers are absolutely comfortable transacting online, but the vast majority, 98% of customers today, are not comfortable transacting online because there's so much variability in the performance of a car, the fit and finish, the feel, the sound, the maintenance requirements, etc., that they need to be educated on. So I think there will be a different level of e-commerce, and you already see that today. There are some people who still go into a store, retail store, and buy a sweater because they want to touch it, they want to see it, they want to try it on. But there are more customers, or a lot of customers, who are comfortable buying it online and doing the return online. So every industry is going to have their different nuances, but I think they'll all follow something similar, but it'll shorten the sales funnel between online information gathering to retail and consumer, matchmaking.
Yeah, you're right, because I know my parents, they'd never let someone else buy a car for them. They'd always want to go in and try to test drive it. And I think that complement of the relationship between AI and business segues into our next question, where experts argue that instead of like replacing jobs, AI is augmenting the capabilities of those in the workforce. And as someone who runs dealerships and teaches the next generation of business leaders, how are you how are you preparing your team and students for this AI assisted future?
Well, let's start with the students first. And I know every professor has a little different script on this, but I think it's because I'm so rooted in the business world. I told students this week in class, I said, if you're not using AI for every single assignment, every single thing you're doing, there's somebody else that you're going to compete with for a job interview or for something else who is absolutely going to use it. And the output is enhanced. And so now bring it back to the business world. I've told a lot of our people there are going to be some jobs that will be replaced. It just is what it is. But, there were telephone operators 60 years ago, and we went away from analog telephones, and we no longer need operators. And so there have always been jobs being replaced with technology. I'm not scared of that, and I've told our employees they shouldn't be scared of that. But more what I think is going to happen is people who are trained on how to use AI tools are going to replace workers who are not trained on how to use AI tools. And I think that's a responsibility of us as a company. And some of the things that we are doing is, we've partnered with an educational firm out of Dubai called Vajal Industries. They've done a great job of one-on-one training with our associates, management training, and then more broad-based training. They do some sort of virtual recorded learnings that our people are required to take as well. But, the one-on-one training and the group training that we've been doing keeps us up to date because the space is moving so fast. When you just look at images, what you can do on Gemini with images today didn't exist 60 days ago.
Yeah.
What you can do on Grok today, you couldn't do 90 days ago. And the same thing's going to be true 6 months from now, which is why that continued education right now today is so, so important. So how we use it in our businesses every day, it can be customer responses. We have an AI platform that answers phones for us. And it's not perfect yet. I just told somebody an hour ago that the AI phone answering system only makes sense for probably 60 to 65% of the phone traffic that we get today. For 40% of the traffic, it doesn't make any sense or it's not a great experience. But that's today. 6 months from now, that might be 75%. 12 months from now, that might be 85%. At some point, I'm confident the majority or vast majority of all of our phone traffic will be able to be efficiently handled by an AI agent. And it might never get to 100%, but it's going to be a lot. And so staying on top of those curves, I think is the most important thing for our employees and our management team as we continue to try to compete in our own business landscape. And I tell the same thing to our business employees as I tell the students. If you're not going to embrace these tools, your competitor down the road, your competitor across town, your competitor across the state or wherever you're competing in, they are absolutely going to start using these and you're going to get passed by. So I think it's super important for students and employees alike to educate themselves on this space in a way that they haven't had to in the past. Maybe like the internet 20 years ago or 25 years ago, because it will absolutely arm you and make you a better student, a better employee, a better leader, a better person. There are all kinds of ways that you can create fitness plans for yourself and diet plans for yourself and make you more efficient generally, that I think our employees, our students, my family members, I've spent some time with our kids. We have 5 kids from the ages of 5 to 15, so young kids. Yeah. We've spent time with our kids showing them AI tools and how to utilize them and what they can do. I absolutely think that everybody should be aware of what's available today and continue the education, be aware of what's available 30 days, 90 days, 180 days from now as well.
Yeah, that reminds me, when I was in elementary school, my school, I think this was, at the time, it was very new for its time, but they made a real effort to teach us how to type. They'd have us sit for hours just on those typing practice websites, just trying to get our WPMs up. And I think right now in elementary schools, I feel like we're probably going to see more and more schools teach AI fundamentals, how to interact with AI chatbots to kids, to give them that edge. And my next question is, recent surveys show that there's an increasing number of consumers that don't trust AI with their personal data. And as retailers like your auto group adopt AI, how do you ensure that transparency and maintain customer trust when they're interacting with AI?
So this is a really big question, and I think everybody has to answer this for themselves. I can give some best practice of what we've done to test certain things. So, everybody's concerned about, I'm going to load these documents into an AI platform, and then somebody else, my competitor, is going to be able to do research a month later, and they're going to be able to access the information that AI learned on mine. And there are a few ways that you can go about it. One, load a document in that is not sensitive in any way, shape, or form, but it has very unique information on it, and then go back a week later from a different platform, a different sign-on, and ask information about that document and see what you get. I think that's a true test of what is happening and what's not happening. I also think it's platform by platform. Mm-hmm. I think that some of the platforms that are here domestically in the United States are going to handle privacy differently than some of the platforms that you're finding abroad. Yeah. I think that's a real thing. I don't think every country looks at privacy as the same way as the citizens of the United States do. I would also say when you hear about the amount of compliance auditors and things like that are in these companies like Google and OpenAI, they are not taking security lightly, right?
Yeah.
They are doing a tremendous amount of work to keep the information private due to laws that are in Europe or in the United States, etc. And so that gives me some comfort level. Again, I don't think it's carte blanche comfort level where just anything can be uploaded and those other things. But I think there are also best practices. Like if you go into OpenAI and you upload some information and then you at the end ask OpenAI to forget that information, I've heard that that's best practice.
Yeah.
If there is something that's even remotely sensitive to you, there are ways for you to clear the memory, if you will, from those sort of things. So I do think you need to educate yourself on what your appetite for data privacy is and what sort of appetite you have for trusting even the domestic, AI platforms is going to be different based on if you're a student, if you're a startup, if you're an established business, if you work for a government agency, if you're dealing with healthcare information and HIPAA rules. Everybody's going to have to kind of manage that themselves. But I do put a lot of trust in them to a degree where I feel like for 75% of the stuff that I'm using, maybe even 85% of the stuff that I'm using, I feel comfortable uploading information, conversing, having conversations with these platforms in a way that I'm not concerned that our information is going to be spread in places that we don't want it.
I think one thing that comes to mind with like a dealer with sensitive data that could be processed with AI is financing, right? Because a lot of people are not paying cash for their car. So do you see a future where AI can responsibly handle people's sensitive financial information and does not discriminate based on, a lot of factors that federal law puts out that you can't discriminate on when you're lending?
I 1,000% do, because we're doing a lot of that online right now anyway. And I think that and you can look, there are websites that will tell you what the general biases are of these online platforms. I mean, if you don't put in a persona and you don't tell the AI how to think, it comes out of the box with political biases, with whatever. That's just a fact. And there are websites that prove that. But at the same time, you can change those biases. And you can tell it what you want it to search for, or how you want it to search, and how you want it to think, and how you don't want it to think. So I absolutely think that the algorithms will continue to get better and better to the point where it'll speed up. And the way we look at it right now, and so our attorneys, our attorneys are using AI responses or whatever. But our hope is that our attorneys are reading the documents that are coming out before they send them to the client or to the court or to wherever the information is going, because their experience is still going to trump anything that the AI spits out. And in a way that it was explained to me is, look at the information that's coming out of AI as a first-year analyst or a first-year associate at a law firm.
Yeah.
The senior partner is still going to review everything, especially if it's really important. Now, if something needs to get out quick and there's not a lot of importance, maybe you can look at it, quick eyeball, and send it out. But if something is a presentation to a bank or information that you're sending to the IRS or information that's really, really legally important to you, you're right, you better put some eyeballs on everything that's coming out of it. And I think that's the expectation today, just like it has been for the last 200 years, again, using the attorney as an example. Your junior associate may absolutely be preparing a document for you, but if it's the trial of a lifetime and it's that important to you, the senior partner's reviewing it before it goes out.
I think, they talk about like human in the loop, human on the loop, human out of the loop. And I think that directly applies to what you were talking about. And we're approaching the end of our time. So I just have a couple of closing questions. If a dealership owner is listening right now and wants to start implementing AI, but doesn't really know where to begin, what's the one application you'd recommend they pilot first and why?
The most applicable right now, quite frankly, are the phone AI partners, because that's real, tangible customer service experience. Because part of the problem we have as dealers is the manpower we have to get to all the phone calls, because there are times that are more busy than others, and so staffing becomes an issue. So I think that right now, right this second, those are probably the best. But the second bit of advice I would give to any business owner in general is educate yourself and get yourself some training and pay for it. Find a firm that you're comfortable with and that comes recommended to you, and get educated yourself so that you know what's out there and you know what's not. Because I also will say this, I do think there is a bit of a bubble where some people perceive that are uneducated that AI can and should do everything for everyone right now with no errors and no omissions. And that's just not where we're at today, but based on the things that I've educated myself and I've seen. So the expectations you set for your team and your company can be tempered by your own education and what you've witnessed. So I would say those things. I think the phone is an easy pickup right now, and I think educating yourself is the second most important thing.
Yeah, I think in the AI business group, I'm on a project team, and we're working with a brand in Michigan. They're not into cars though, but they've also asked us to build a phone type of system to just interact with customers to cut down on the staffing needed for very commonly asked questions. And then my last question is, what are the most important skills or the mindset that students need to develop to effectively use AI as tomorrow's business leaders?
Well, I would just say fool around and figure it out. FAFO, because the space is changing so much that what you're working on today and what you're playing with today is going to be very different 90 days from now and 180 days from now. And I would say almost any task you have, again, if you want to create a jogging routine, if you want to talk about way to consistently, care for your pet, if you want to talk about study habits, if you want to talk about anything you want to do in your life, I would always start with plugging it into one of the AI, large language models that you're comfortable with, and just see what comes out. And I've done that, and sometimes I've been really pleasantly surprised and I've been able to use it, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense and it wasn't worth the time I spent in it. But again, if I did that 90 days from now, maybe the things that didn't work then might work in the future. And video is another thing that's going to get better and better. Pictures are pretty good right now. Video is okay, not great. But video didn't even exist 12 months ago, in any sort of form. And now it definitely exists. And it's going to get better and better and better. And so I just think you need to continue to be a practitioner. You need to think AI first. No matter what you have, unless it's tying your shoes, I would try to do it with AI first and see what the output is and if it makes you more efficient or makes you better.
Yeah, I think this goes back to your point, which is super important, that if you're not using AI, someone else will be, and they'll be having the edge. Yeah, that was some great advice. I really appreciate you coming on, Professor Speigl. Thank you for taking time out of your day for this.
I appreciate you having me on, and super excited about all the work you guys are doing. You're making the university proud, and really excited about what's to come for you guys as well. These projects that you guys are on and the experiences that you guys are getting, but the output you guys are giving to the partners and the companies that you're working with is tremendous, and I've seen some of it firsthand. So keep up the great work by you and the AI Business Group, and let us know, how we can help support you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.